Let's talk through the Ski Erg with HYROX. Now this is probably one of the most strategic, if not the most strategic station in the event itself. So let's go talk through strategy, tips, how to train for it, but more importantly, what are you gonna do on race day? Yeah, is that all right? Before I jump into this, guys, don't forget to hit subscribe down below for more HYROX content and more fitness content as well. Other than that, let's get stuck straight into it. Now the Ski Erg, this is probably one of the most mentally challenging stations and the one you probably have to have the most self-control. It's really important in this station in particular, you actually do have a strategy that you actually stick to. This is because the Ski Erg is early enough that you do feel good, adrenaline's pumping, what pace you're holding, how fast are you going to be doing your strokes per minute, what damping to have it set on. These are all things you should have figured out before you get there, because failure to do so means you'll over rev your engine, you'll raise your heart rate too much, and you can basically stuff up the rest of the race. This is about moving efficiently. You cannot win it on the ski, and I'm gonna pair the row with this one too. You can't really win it on the ergs, but you can sure as hell lose it. And you can lose a lot of time on these stations by basically and simply going out too hard. In training, work out what pace works for you, work out what damper works for you, so when you get to the race day, you can basically save as much energy as possible. And I'm gonna walk you through how to do this too. So first thing with this is technique's actually super important. So let's break down the technique of a Ski Erg. Now, when you start a ski, what you wanna do is firstly, you wanna have the handles, the larger part in the palms of your hand. So that way it's a nice, comfortable grip when you're holding it there too. You wanna be about an arm length away from where the ski is too. Now, these are things I would highly recommend to work out before you're there on race day, so you know roughly where your feet positioning is, which is really important in terms of the distance you are away from the ski itself. Now, the top of the ski is called the catch. In this position, what we want to try to do is we want to try to open up our joints. So our hips are straight, our knees are straight, and you can come up onto your toes as well. But basically, everything from the upper body down is straight to give yourself space. It's a beautiful way to think about it when you get to the top of the catch. At the top of the catch, think about as high as you can grab, because this is where you're going to generate your power. You want to be in a powerful position because power means moving fast. It also means moving efficiently. If you grab with your hips bent or your knees bent, you're actually not grabbing in a powerful position. This is already where you should be halfway through the movement itself. And you're not going to be able to generate efficient strokes when you're doing it this way. It's going to be quite taxing, particularly on your lower back, on your core, and on your breathing. We want to get that nice breath in, open up the body, open up all the joints, grab as high as you can, keep the elbows slightly bent in that catch position, and then from there, that's where we drive the handles down. When you drive the handles down, the first thing you're doing is hips back. Hips pop back through this movement, and you almost do a bit of a quarter squat. So hips pop back, which gives you enough space to bring those handles straight down with power, using your core, using your legs, and of course using your upper body at this point, but you're not bending through just yet. You're gonna get more power from the hips coming back. Dropping down, dropping down, dropping down. That quarter squat's then gonna come into play here. And it's only towards the end where you finish with your arms really pulling back and they go past your pockets. And what you can do at this point, instead of coming all the way down, because you got to come all the way back up, as it's coming down, you can actually start to slowly lift your chest up very subtly, so you can start to come back to that catch a little bit quicker as well. Practice good, strong, efficient strokes, because this is going to be where you're going to save as much energy as you can. The ski is very strategic, and this is not a station where you want to come off feeling overly fatigued. You still want to keep moving. In terms of the discrepancy between the people who are leading this versus just slightly behind them, it's a lot more energy to ski at say 140 per 500 versus 150 at 500. So you want to basically move efficiently as you can, just under where you know you can sit. So the next question is going to be, what pace do you hold? You do not want to be going all out on this one. You do feel fresh at this point. Self-control, have a plan, have a strategy, please, and stick to it. It is very hard at this point because you feel good. Yes, you can totally set it. I know you can, but you're gonna regret it later on in the race too. So this is a station where I very purposely hold back a fair bit. The difference in going 90% on the station versus 80, 85, it's a couple of seconds. When you're in that race mode and people are getting out a couple of seconds before you, I know it's tricky, but trust me, you can catch them later on as well. It very rarely comes down to a few seconds at the end of the race, unless you're in that elite 15, that yes, they're going quite hard hard, but these guys have the engine to be able to do it. So again, it's also about knowing yourself too. For most people, going 80% and moving efficiently is a great way to do this particular station. Trust me, you're better off going a little bit slower here than too hard, because if you have energy later on, you'll use it, but you don't want to be redlining early. So in terms of what pace you're holding, a couple of ways you can do this one. A 2K ski for time is a great way to understand where your pacing is today. So ski for 2,000 meters and see what pace you hold. And you want to be holding somewhere between 4 to 7 seconds underneath this pace, roughly. So if you're skiing at, say, a 145 for 2Ks, you want to be holding somewhere around a 149 to 152. Roughly. It's going to feel a bit easier, but that's okay at this point, because again, we don't want to overload ourselves. Really flying through the ski is one that can gas you out quite quickly for anyone who's sprinted and done kind of interval training with skis before. It's a great movement for that, but it's also, you don't want that when it comes to a race. Roughly, that's the strategy in terms of the pacing, but again, probably somewhere around 5, even to 10 seconds behind what you know you could hold on this station is a great place to be. In terms of the stroke rate, and this again depends on the athlete too. So if you're going to go on a slightly higher damper, like an 8-9, for example, you may want to use bigger, more powerful strokes. So if you're more of a power athlete, not a bad option to move it to like an 8 or a 9 and use bigger strokes and a slower stroke rate. So you might want to be stroking under 30 a minute. For example, big powerful strokes, big breath in, big powerful stroke. Not a bad way to do it. I personally prefer to do it this way with slightly slower strokes. It's the way I was taught when I used to do rowing, and I just apply that to skiing as well. Big stroke down, breathe in as I come back up, big stroke down. So I have a slightly slower stroke rate compared to most people on this one. And the reason behind that one is so I can breathe each time, and I'm really just keeping my heart rate low, and that's it. So in terms of stroke rate, I would go no higher than say like a 35. If you're up towards 40, it's too quick. Like you don't want to be skiing that fast. Bring it back down as much as you can, or at least under what you normally sit. If you're normally going quite quick and you ski at 35, 36, bring it down 4 to 5 strokes-ish. That way you're slowing it right down and you're keeping your heart rate lower. Now in terms of the damper setting, this goes to your personal preference, because the energy expenditure and how fast you're going solely depends on how hard you want to ski on the station. So it doesn't particularly matter if you wanted to do it on a 5 versus an 8, for example. I would do whatever you do mostly in training, and also to whatever stroke rate you want to hold. I know a lot of people like to keep it on a 7 because you just get to go straight away. I think that's totally fine, and it's a good damper to hold there. But again, just know the strokes per minute you should be holding to keep your pace there too. Same goes if you want to go up or down on the damper. Just understand before you go into that race how many strokes per minute you should be doing to hold your target pace. So it depends if you want to hold a slightly higher or slower stroke rate. Okay, now in terms of training, to be really honest with you, the ergs in a HYROX are not the biggest differentiator between you getting a massive PB and not. In terms of the disparity between the top guys and the middle guys, it's probably got the least return of your energy, but that doesn't mean that you write these stations off. What it does mean is you train for them so you can do them with as less energy as possible, so you can move efficiently, so that way you can spend more energy on the other stations. So I'm not saying it's not as important, but what I am saying is that it's not worth doing a high energy expenditure on these ones, because the difference between energy expenditure when you're rowing and skiing, 5 to 10 seconds difference per 500 is massive, but the time is not much at all. Versus if you use that same energy in, say, the burpee broad jumps, you'll make that up very easily on those stations. You should train appropriately to that. I like to personally overtrain in terms of the speed, so when it comes to race day, you can go a little bit slower. When you're training, you can do things like your 1Ks, you can add in interval training. I actually, when I'm training HYROX simulations, I go a little bit faster on these ones than I would on race day, because it overloads my heart rate. So when I actually do the event, I can go a little bit slower. That's just the way I like to train. But doing things like interval training, for example, where it's a little bit longer with intervals, so like 1 minute on, 30 seconds off, great way to add some capacity there. And skiing a little bit under the pace that you want to be holding, so a little bit faster is a great way to do it. When I'm doing my simulations, I like to go a little bit harder on this one. There's more to get you used to a higher heart rate, so when you do it on the day, it does feel a little bit easier as well. So it's great ways to add it into your training. And the thing is with the ergs too, is they're great ways to build up lung capacity and VO2 max without too much fatigue on the legs, because HYROX is a very skewed event towards running. So this is a great way to add in a different stimulus, still work your heart rate, still get that blood pumping without putting too much pressure on the the legs. So maybe use it in between your running days as well to really focus on that. Another good way with training as well, specificity with training is really important. So coming into this with a bit of a run and leaving with a bit of a run, or kind of pre-fatiguing yourself a little bit and then doing something straight after, is a great way to do it. We sometimes will do like 1K skis or like ski throughs on my interval training to get used to that kind of feeling with it, but make sure we're coming straight out of that station and into the next one or into something else is, again, very realistic to what you're doing on the day, especially if you can do a run in and out for it too. Definitely add it into your training. Big focus on your technique in particular and understanding what damper and what stroke rate you're going to be doing, because this is going to be really important. And when you get there on the day, I know you're feeling good, the adrenaline's pumping, don't go faster than the strategy, because you will regret it. If you lose a couple seconds here, it's not gonna make a massive impact on your race, but if you gain a couple seconds here, it could destroy it. Good luck with this one, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe down below. Feel free to send it around, and good luck on your HYROX training. You can also visit my website for HYROX training programs, coachpeterday.com. There's a whole bunch of programs there for you guys to get faster, get stronger, and more importantly, improve your HYROX time.